We're back for another episode of the Capes and Tights podcast here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. Paul Eaton from Galactic Comics and Collectibles is back again this week for second week in a row. This week, talk Black Panther, the original film from 2018, and talk about our discussion about rewatching it and all the things that are going on in that movie, as well as preview Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which comes out November 11th, 2022. Before you listen to this podcast, though, make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as on Spotify and Apple or all your major podcasting platforms. All kinds of content, reviews, articles, postings, news, whatever it may be at capesandtights.com. Again, Paul Eaton from Galactic Comics and Collectibles is here today to talk Black Panther and Black Panther Wakanda Forever, out November 11th, 2022, here on the Capes and Tights podcast. Enjoy, everybody. I'll tell you what, no, Paul, this is the most half-assed podcast on the internet right now. I don't know why. I just like say, hey, you ready to start? You're like, let's do it. And I press record. But this is the Capes and Tights podcast here. I'm Justin. That's Paul over there from Galactic Comics. We're talking stuff again 2 weeks in a row, buddy. After not being on for a while, 2 weeks in a row is a little much. And I see you like 3 days a week now. It's a whole thing.
You're almost just like, just stay here all the time. And then like, this is your point. And then from here you go to OBC, and then here you go home. It's just
I don't know if my wife would like that.
I don't think she'd be impressed with that. That might not fly.
So I was looking for an investment in something the other day, and long story short, I was like, yeah. She goes, you can stop buying comic books. I said, funny.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. That's not happening.
Well, it's funny. It's like I have two against one, me and you against me.
Yeah.
Because if I stop buying comic books, Paul's gonna be pissed.
Yeah, that doesn't work out.
But we're here to talk movies. Black Panther. Paul, have you seen Black Panther before you watched this? I love asking people that question. No, you've obviously seen it.
This was my third viewing.
Okay, yeah, this might be four. The only reason I say it's four is because I did initial reading, and then I did like one watching.
I was trying to figure out how that works.
Well, we talking about book club before we got.
Yeah, I know we were doing book club before we started.
And then I watched through all of MCU, and then watched through again all of MCU. I think during the pandemic. So this might actually be the fourth one because of the fact that I saw it originally, and then two full watch throughs of the MCU. This is my second time watching it in its independent solo, not watching the things around it.
So my daughters and I are watching the whole MCU thing, but we're still way back on I think we're on Winter Soldier.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm gonna have to watch Black Panther again when we get caught up. And we talked about, like, my wife and I were debating on if the girls could watch this out of sync, and I think they could, but like as of right now, they don't even know who the Black Panther is because you get introduced to him in Civil War. So I watched it solo on my own.
So I want to say, so it came out in February 2016, or sorry, February 16th, 2018. It was the 18th film in the MCU, and it came out in phase 3, which is kind of funny how many projects have come out since then, because as we get to the end of this podcast, we'll talk a little bit about Wakanda Forever, and that's the 30th film in the MCU.
It's hard to believe it's that high, isn't it now?
It was the highest grossing solo MCU movie in history at $1.348 billion in the box office, but it got beat out by Spider-Man No Way Home, which got $1.9 billion.
When it came out, correct me, it was one of the highest grossing movies.
Yes. Well, right now it's 9th all time.
Yeah. So
I'm
in
2018. In 2018, it only got beat out by Infinity War.
Okay.
So it was the second most profitable movie in the year, but Infinity War obviously is a team movie with a bunch of actors and actresses.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's a great,
for a character. Like I said, this is nothing to be a Black Panther character is kind of like, it was in the same realm as Ant-Man to me, and a couple of the other characters that people were like, okay, they're big in the Marvel universe, but like they're not your A characters in a lot of people's minds.
Right. I personally love the Black Panther, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who know very, very little about him, especially if they are not mainstream comic people. if you aren't someone that does comics all the time, then you probably aren't going to find Black Panther shirts readily out there or anything. Since the movie now, yes. Pre-movie, it was always Captain America, Iron Man, Thor. Those were kind of your known big Marvel people.
And to see that movie get almost $1.4 billion in the box office was absolutely astounding for it to do. And every time I kept on getting more money, we're always like, oh my God. We expect it from the Avengers movies. We expect it from Star Wars movies. We expect those things. But to get it from an but a solo Black Panther movie was a really interesting thing to see, which is pretty cool. But you mentioned at the beginning or when you're talking about it connecting to other things, it is one of those cool things I love about Marvel is they introduced Black Panther in Civil War. So this wasn't like this is this first character. This is where you get to meet him for the first time. We got to meet him for the first time in Captain America Civil War. And that's where his dad passed away. And so that he actually it goes into this whole, now we're explaining how he becomes the leader of Wakanda, even though he already is Black Panther. So he is, which is pretty cool. And I love that part about it and stuff like that. But overall, the theme that I was telling my wife, whether you like the movie or not, like you like the character or the story, unbelievably shot movie, unbelievably cinematography, unbelievably scored and unbelievable music to it. And unbelievable acting. All of those things is why the movie becomes one of the epitomes of the MCU. Like I said, whether you like the story or not, or you like the character or not, you have to admit those things, is that the music, the filming itself of the movie, and the acting are outstanding.
I thought that was one of my takeaways from watching it again, was I think it might be one of the most like beautifully filmed Marvel movies there is, if not the best. Like it's just unbelievable. All of the well done things I thought from the comic perspective, and the well done things for overall movie, and just the backdrops and backgrounds of seeing Wakanda and everything. It's just, all of it is just beautiful.
I put the text treatments on there too. I like that little, like how like had those like different style text that like kind of like, and then went to the next. And
it looked like it was originally you're reading it in their language, and then it flips over, and it's still not like just in regular text. I thought that was super cool.
It's just overall, like I said, the movie itself is not one of those ones that if someone said, hey, I'm going to rewatch an MCU movie, it's not on that list of just like randomly rewatching it. So it took a little bit. I wanted to do this episode because the new one comes out in a couple of weeks. And I thought what Adam and I talked about when we started the podcast was, let's review movies as they come out. So like there's some movies we won't get to on the MCU side of things until a little while later, because the sequel is coming out. And I thought, instead of just randomly doing it, we can do it right before the new movie comes out. Gives us both a chance to watch it again prior to potentially going to the theater and seeing it and things like that. But again, I don't think it's one of those ones where I'm like, if we put a bunch of names in a hat and pulled out, that this would be one of the ones, because it's one of what I think is one of the best movies in the MCU, but not one of the most rewatchable, if that makes any sense.
I don't know. I really enjoyed, so I saw it in theaters. I watched it when it came out on Blu-ray, and now doing it again, and I really enjoyed it through again. So I don't know. For me, I could see continuing to rewatch this movie. The action sequences are fantastic. It's interesting to see what's going on. I like the Black Panther anyways. He's a character I like. So I have no problem with sitting down and getting to see Chadwick Boseman on there as the Black Panther. And like there's the opening scene. I had Charlotte was still chilling out at the time that I had started. She was like half paying attention to it. And I told her, so you got to watch this scene. And I love when he goes to rescue the women in the beginning there. And the guys are out with a flashlight, and they look up, and he's in the tree like an animal, like a panther in the tree, can hunt them. And like that scene to me right there is one of the, like, I think I could probably list that in the top 10 just chilling Marvel scenes throughout, the ones that give you the goosebumps. Like, oh yes. Like,
yes, exactly. And it shows off the bat his abilities. I mean, obviously we know that from Civil War, but if you didn't watch Civil War,
he just mows through these guys. I mean, they're not even a challenge.
And it has that humor too, about like they said, that MCU humor. It's a specific thing that MCU has been able to capitalize on, is these small little jokes to cut tension of some things, but also had that drama or action series. Like when him and his sister, did he freeze like an antelope in headlights? It was like, those kind of things in the relationship he has with Suri is a good thing too. We'll get into that in a second. But yeah, that opening sequence is pretty, and they don't wait that long. I mean, it's like we're like into action almost immediately after, obviously, the explanation of the California part of it.
Yes, but the explanation too at the beginning that explains Wakanda, I thought.
I had that on my thing. I have it right here. The use of sand substance, the sand thing, to tell the story on how Wakanda became Wakanda. There's a nice little way to explain Wakanda quickly without having to do like visual shots of things.
Yeah, because that took 90 seconds probably.
Yes.
Like it was very quick, but in that you got all the information you needed about Wakanda, vibranium, the history of the Black Panther. Like it was very, very quick to get you everything, and I was impressed at how like fluid it was, but how interesting it was. You sat there and like, for anybody joining MCU or with no background of Marvel stuff, that was a great way to get you a background story really quickly.
That way, and then the other way would be what's his name from Ant-Man.
Oh, from Ant-Man.
Those are the two ways to explain Marvel movies.
His explanation is terrific. Like everything.
So a friend told a friend that, but yeah, that I wrote that literally the first thing I wrote down when I wrote some notes down was the fact that it was the use of that sand, and they use it throughout the movie too. It's just a cool thing. It's not just like a storytelling thing at the beginning, like the sand that Martin Freeman is on in Wakanda in Suri's lab is that sand thing. It's the stuff they use to like virtual reality drive the cars and stuff like that. That's all
hologram. Any sort of like hologram like projection is sort of made out of that. Yeah, it seems like it must be like fine vibranium dust or something that is all done. But yeah, it was very, very well done, and it was great to see, like you said, how that connects through the movie.
And I said, when I saw it, and I forgot, I guess it's been a while. I mean, I said that probably 2020 since the last time I saw this movie. So I mean, 2 years plus, or just about 2 years since I've seen it. So like, it took me a while to remember that that's the connection was when I wrote the note down. But there was it was further in the movie. But like I saw Martin Freeman. What's his Ross?
Yes.
No. Yeah. He on the thing. I'm like, oh yeah. And then when they're in the car and different things and all that stuff.
Yeah. They mentioned the car scene's super cool.
All those things. Her lab is awesome.
The piloting. He's piloting the ship there.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of like a 007. And she makes a comment about that, right? She makes it like there's something that says like someone said something about like the old American movies. I forget what it was. She said some sort of comment like, oh, it's like what Papa said about the old American movies. And I think they were talking about 007 because of the different things that she had in her lab. That reminded her of that, the American movie. Speaking of American movie, one of the reasons why this movie stands out too, it's very tribal, and it's very African authentic, and the idea that we haven't had that up until this point. We've had space and we've had the United States basically, and up until this point in the MCU, to have this ability to have like face paint and tribal gowns and things like that you don't normally see.
A lot of ceremonial things from their, whether it be their battle or their clothing. And I love the idea. It gets right off early showing that they have their border tribe that keeps the idea out for the outside world that Wakanda is like a third world country, even though they have all this technology hidden amongst themselves. And then you get into Wakanda and it's like this giant metropolis city, like with everything's like flying and hover trains. And
he says when he pulls it, he goes, "This never gets old." I love that line. He never gets old. Like, when he drives, they fly the ship into
into what looks like the mountainside. Yeah, it just fades away and you're inside.
Which they call back to at the very end of the movie too. I think it's the post credit scene when they do the when they say they're going to start sharing their information with people, and they're like, "Excuse me, no offense, but like, what does a third world farming community have anything to show the world?" And he just looks at the camera and goes, he's like, "You just wait." Which is funny because if you think about it, I can't now. If I didn't watch it in MCU chronological order, since this is 12 movies later, they're coming out with Wakanda Forever. Have we seen the impact of that post-credit scene yet?
That's a good question. I wonder now. It'd be interesting to sit there, like as I'm doing it with the girls. If we could do it faster, trying to keep 3 little girls going on track in movies is a challenge. But it would be interesting to see, like, do you see that Wakanda technology start being more general in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know, like maybe Shield, maybe, but
Yeah,
who
maybe it's
knows
just
what
not known.
technology
No,
Shield
maybe it's
had
like
already.
where were they at? They were at the United Nations. Like if they had the United
Yeah.
Nations just know about it and there's small things, and it doesn't mean they have to share everything. They
No,
just have
no,
some
because of
things they're
course
going to start
they
sharing.
wouldn't. They're going to be very, pick and choose. Maybe
Yeah.
the first thing they're doing is helping like the medical technology because they're so far in advance. I mean,
Yeah.
Ross gets shot and they can heal him,
Yep.
quickly. So maybe that's kind of the first thing they're doing is reaching out for that, and it'd be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that connection they
That's
talk
a good
about is
question.
weird. How like
Yeah,
you'd think the second that post credit scene happened that the next movie would have some sort of Wakanda technology in it. And maybe
right,
we've seen it, it's just not explained to us that way. Maybe we
right.
think, I don't know what it is that could potentially have impacted us that just don't see it in the background, which is fine because I mean there's technology that advances all over the world that we don't know about that just happens to be in our house. All of a sudden, I know where get a smaller whatever it is. You're like, oh, that's cool
Well,
technology. It
I
wouldn't be
mean,
like
in my
broadcast.
lifetime,
Yeah.
we now carry
Yes.
around a computer
Yeah.
every day that's portable and easy, and our
And it
my
just
the first
happened. It wasn't like a big
yeah,
announcement.
it becomes normal life, right? Like I
It
look back
wasn't
at my
like
childhood thinking it was amazing to sit in my grandfather's car and call somebody on the car phone.
yes.
Like I called my friend, like, guess where I'm calling you from? Like think about that now. Like,
Now you're like, so
yeah,
you're not supposed to be
what?
using your phone in the car,
Right.
Paul.
Why are you calling me anyways? Like,
Now there's laws against using the phone in the car. But as I mentioned, the actors of the show too. I mean, of the movie. So Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace. You look back now at certain characters over the years. I could not picture someone else playing Indiana Jones. I
no,
can't picture anybody else, honestly, at this point playing Harry Potter.
no.
Like there's certain people who I cannot picture that anybody else playing. I mean, Marty McFly.
Yeah.
Can't picture that any different than that. Michael J. Fox. So there's certain people that you just look at and you go, there's no one else that could have played this person. And
Right.
now looking back on it, it's like, yes, because now the hindsight's 2020, but like Chadwick Boseman was absolutely perfect as a Black Panther. And Wesley
100%.
Snipes tried to get this movie made years ago as him being Black Panther. Don't think it would have gone over the same way.
I don't think so.
He was questionable enough, in my opinion, as Blade. But
the Blade movies had their problems. I like him as Blade, because he's definitely got the badass thing going with it. But no, Chadwick Boseman there's so much depth and feeling to the Black Panther that like I personally don't think Wesley Snipes was gonna bring you.
No.
Wesley Snipes would have brought you a badass dude in a Panther suit, but probably not a lot of feeling to the character. No. Where Chadwick Boseman
he would have been Blade in a Black Panther costume.
Yeah, basically.
And Chadwick Boseman just has this feeling, this acting ability. I mean, if anybody's seen any of the other movies he's put out,
I need to watch more of his movies. That's
21 Bridges was amazing. 21 Bridges was a really good movie and it's an action movie, but he's just so good at acting. And honestly, he died in 2020. Yes, 60. Yeah.
He plays Jackie Robinson. I'd like to watch that movie. I've never seen that one. And for what I read, that was what got him the role of the Black Panther.
Yeah. When he died in 2020, right?
I guess it must
I'm
be
looking
now.
it up right now.
Well, when you said this was in 2018.
Yeah, it was 2020. So
I'm kind of surprised looking back. I'm like, wow.
I'm pretty sure he was obviously dealing with his cancer at the time of this movie being filmed.
That I thought that too, watching it. And I was like watching it now and knowing, and I'm like, wow, to think that, because I mean, he is in so many action sequences in this movie. And to think to be that sick and dealing with it.
It reminds me a lot of Michael Jordan's Flu Game. So like this is Chadwick Boseman's like the last few movies he made is his Flu Game. Like he was unbelievable. He kicked ass, even though you find out later he's sick.
Right.
It's like Michael Jordan kicked ass in that game where he supposedly had the flu, and you're just like, oh my god, he did that, and he did it with the flu. It's like watching Black Panther, like he did that amazingly, and he had cancer. It's like this second level of the next level of acting is to be able to act like your normal self having cancer, and then so hiding that as well as acting as a different person. So you're like, there's like multiple stages to that.
I was thinking this. There's like the battle scenes of him in the water, and like, can you imagine the diet and exercise routine he had to keep to be in the physical condition he is in this movie? Because like he is in great shape looking at him in this. Like, he would give like anybody a run for their money. And to think that he was that ill and then being able to stay in that sort of condition for it, like, unbelievable.
Yeah,
Like,
because I looked it up online. Bozeman was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2016.
Oh,
he
my
never
God.
spoke out publicly of cancer diagnosis.
Wow.
Only a handful of non-family members knew that he was sick in general.
That's
He
insane.
filmed, even though he was doing multiple surgeries and chemotherapy, he continued to work and completed production of several films, including Marshall, The Five Bloods, Marraine, and others, and obviously including Black Panther and so on.
I mean, all of his MCU movies would have been, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, that's crazy that
it's incredible.
Going through chemotherapy. I mean, I don't know how. I know people who go through chemotherapy who can't do regular life, let alone act.
Like, well, most people, like, it is devastating. They can't. I mean, I've had family members with it, and if they can get up and get out, that's a lot. So to think that he was filming all this, working, obviously staying in shape and condition for it, it's like unbelievable. I wonder if that was a good, like, distraction for him.
Yeah, I understand. I can understand that, because, like, honestly, even
that
just
drive, that motivation, like, I've got to stay.
Yeah. If you stay active, and I mean, I think Bruce Willis did that same thing with his whole illness he had. He just acted his ass off, and he goes, I know. The other part about it is I can't just stop doing anything, because there's people that he cares about, family and loved ones and things like that he probably left a bunch of money to, and filming and continuing this thing to the day he died. He was able to accumulate some cash to give to them, pay for expenses and things. And so,
well, he was the first person to sign on to the What If stuff from the MCU. They said, because he wanted to, like, be able to do Black Panther one more time. So the voice acting of T'Challa in the What If gave him that one final.
Which is awesome. And so it's just sad. He did a great job, but he almost got stolen out from under him with the Michael B. Jordan's acting as well in this as Killmonger. I honestly think there was like 1A, 1B, is I think Michael B. Jordan. I love seeing redemption stories, Paul, of actors who were in other Marvel movies that failed.
You don't think that the Fantastic Four and Human Torch was going to be Michael B. Jordan's, like, greatest acting?
Well, it's like seeing Ryan Reynolds, like, go from, like, playing crappy versions of either Deadpool or Green Lantern to going killing
the Wolverine Deadpool
to killing it with the Deadpool characters he has now.
Yeah.
Going to see things like that, like seeing that transition. Chris Evans to go from playing Fantastic Four all the way up to playing
another one, to being the Captain America. Perfect example. I can't see anyone else being Captain America as far as being Steven Rogers Captain America.
Yeah,
Chris Evans.
I love seeing that connection and that redemption they give some of these characters and these actors, and letting him go from being the honestly fairly small, like, not scrawny, but he was not as big in Fantastic Four as how massive he got for this. And honestly, he filmed Creed and all that stuff in between too. So, like, there's a reason why he's the size he is now. I don't know if you've seen his images for Creed 3.
Yes.
Oh my God. He looks like friggin' The Rock. It's like
massive,
jacked, but I think he killed it. No pun intended there, Killmonger. But I think he absolutely killed it.
So watching it through again, I think that he might be one of my top MCU villains. I like the depth of his character, and there is I feel like the, like, quote unquote revenge and the disagreement with the politics of the country he would have, like, belonged to, and seeing it from an outside perspective, where all of his things and means were not right. They weren't, the way you should go about
it. But his actual meaning,
I agree with what he was with a lot of his opinions of what he was doing. And most of the MCU villains, in my opinion, I don't like their background stories. I don't like the changes in them to give them the sad, sappy things. Electro isn't a sad, sappy guy who didn't have family and people didn't come to his birthday party. He's just a dick. Like, that's it. Like, that's the background story of Electro. He gains his powers and decides to use them for evil things for his own means rather than helping people. Like, I like how Killmonger had a very well-rounded background. And I thought, absolutely, Michael B. Jordan just killed the acting on it. And there's all the talks of, like, well, could he come back as the Black Panther? I just don't see it. And I think we talked about, like, it would ruin his whole storyline of his character if they just brought him back for that role. But he
two
was
things on that.
fantastic on there right from the get-go.
Yes.
That opening scene in the museum, I kind of like watching it through again. Wish I saw more of him on there. I would like to have seen more Killmonger in it. I don't think that that it was like lacking to the point where I felt like Thor: Love and Thunder was like lacking villain. Like we needed more of him on screen. I just enjoyed the character so much. I would like to see more of him. Almost have an origin movie of him.
Yes. Like, or like, yeah, exactly. Like a more of a, you know, so I could understand bringing him back because I do. Paul, the problem I have, you know me, I have very little problems with the MCU, but the biggest problem I have is this one of my wife has is there's no love stories that stay.
Yeah.
We have yet to have a love story that's basically like lasted the test of time. Either someone's died.
You can say, well, yeah, of course, like, but Iron Man died, but you could have like the whole Iron Man.
Yeah, well, I know that, but like, or so it's either someone dies and is no longer there anymore, or they break up and so on. So, like, you know, obviously with the Thor: Love and Thunder, she passes away from cancer. Like, so it's all these different things that you have. The other one is that they kill off villains now. There's like a very few number of villains that we've ever had in the Marvel Cinematic Universe now. Like Thanos was like the guy, but other than that, there's very few that, if any, that go from story to story to story. And Killmonger would have been a perfect one.
Is it what, Baron Zemo?
Yeah.
That like reappears in the Captain America and Winter
Soldier.
They're mostly the B ones.
Yes.
There's oh my god, the Captain America villain that George St. Pierre plays. He reappears.
Batroc.
Batroc, yes.
Yeah. And then also, like, obviously you're going to get other characters, like you mentioned, that do have that small B character role that goes from the
kind of pop up.
The leader's going to show up in New World Order, who was in the first Incredible Hulk. He wasn't really a villain,
but like you said, the lead villains are usually not long lasting.
You know, Ultron's done.
Ultron's one movie.
Yeah, with a big character like that. And so I think Killmonger isn't that big of a character, but I think that it would have been nice that you could have brought him into the next movie or somewhere else in there by putting him in prison. Obviously, his words and his statement about knowing that ending your life is better than captivity and bondage is a big statement to the American culture back in the day. So or even currently, honestly. But now like that statement would have been able to be there if you did kill him. But like, I don't know. I just feel like you're right. It would dilute his whole story. They did it a couple too many times with Loki. Honestly, Loki's one of my favorite villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe too. And they keep on like, oh, he's dead. Is he really dead though? And I was like, well, that's okay.
But that is also Loki in the books.
Well, I know,
like,
but I understand that
follows the Marvel thing of the because he's kind of like the villain in Harry Voldemort, where he leaves a bit of his soul broken up in places, and then you rediscover Loki, and oh crap. But
like you're supposed to feel this like loss,
this sad, he's gone,
and then you bring him back, and it's like you can't, you know, it's that whole.
It does kill it when you go back and rewatch something. You know, like he's dead. It's like he'll be back.
Yeah, exactly. So Killmonger being gone is great. The it's a couple things on the villain being. I think he had obviously no villain in any superhero anything honestly has the right mindset of going about what they're doing. However. Killmonger, you're right. Killmonger is one of the few in the MCU, if the only, that has the actual legitimate foot to stand on. But just goes about it the wrong way.
It has the most reasonable, like, mindset of it, and you can, and like the way he's trained and he goes into like the Navy SEALs, and is military. You could see the like, well, then this is the only way I see this, like that avenue that he went off in. It's the only way he could have that mindset of like getting something done. And I can understand that. Like I can see that. And as a hero to villain side of it, you look and go, well, that's evil. What he's doing is wrong. Because he's killing, you know, innocent people, or putting innocent people in harm's way. Because he doesn't really kill a lot of innocent people through this. He's certainly going to put them in harm's way, potentially going to war with all of these countries. Because he essentially wants to declare war on the world itself.
Yes.
Like
up until that point,
I will be king of all and decide what's right for everyone because our people have been repressed and our people have been wronged, and he wants to right it.
Up until that point, except for actually the whole point, because it wasn't really known outside of Wakanda what was going on. Like no one in the outside world knew that Michael B. Jordan was trying to take over the world. Like they or Killmonger. Big thing again, he had a lot of feet to stand on, and it was more your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man aspect, your small world villain, whereas like a lot of the other villains that we've had over the years in superhero movies are like catastrophic, like world-ending kind of villains. And
I mean, Ultron was going to destroy everything.
Yep.
Thanos
was going to destroy
destroyed.
everything.
I mean, not only everything on Earth, Thanos destroyed it across the universe.
You look at Loki and stuff like that in the first Avengers movie.
Loki was out for
entire city.
He was destroying New York, and he would have destroyed the whole world if he had enough time.
It's a small world, small thing happening that we have to have a villain to pursue the story. But like, you don't need to have the villain where the whole world's like, oh my God, we're gonna die. It was Wakanda was the problem, and it stayed within the walls of the Wakanda. And if it would have gotten past that, if Everett Ross didn't shoot the ship down and all that stuff, it obviously would have expanded further. But the idea of having Black Panther, the first Black Panther movie, be such a small world, local town villain, if you think about it, instead of being this massive catastrophic villain, also added to the whole story to me, and added to the idea that we can have, like, there's things, if we were living in the MCU right now, there's stuff we're not hearing about. There's stuff that's happening in third world countries, and
you have no idea.
Petty crimes like we talked about in She-Hulk. There's these petty crime kind of villains that are out there. Not everything has to be Thanos or Ultron with this like massive catastrophic thing. And they did a very good job with that in having Killmonger be that. But again, I would have loved to see the future of Killmonger. I just don't think that if they bring him back in Wakanda Forever, this movie becomes an entirely different movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it would downplay a lot of his character, which it would be terrible. Like, that's terrible because he did such a fantastic job with Killmonger.
Which you feel
other
cool
villain
because, I mean, it'd be cool to see that, but
yeah. Other villain in it, Claw.
Yes. Oh my God, Andy Serkis is one of my favorite people in the entire world.
He was fantastic in it, and it was funny because my first viewing of this, I don't know that I completely love the character. Now watching, I completely love the character. I wish I had more of him as well. I wish
Claw miniseries would be so amazing of him just stealing shit from people.
It's too bad that they killed him off.
Well, you can go back. You can do a miniseries that happens before it comes, like it leads right into like the pre Black Panther up until the point where they're in the museum.
Yep.
Like a five episode miniseries that lasts up until that point. Like the very last episode is them going into Killmonger, like going into the museum or planning the museum heist.
Or him meeting Killmonger to start this.
And he could steal a couple things with Killmonger. This doesn't have to. Like, no one said this is the only thing they stole from the museum. They could have been other things they were able to get. So Killmonger could even be in that episode, pre-Killmonger, pre the mask,
Claw was definitely one of your standard villains of just like he's just a bad guy. Like, in that way, I could, and like nuts, like he was loving it, like, and he was having a great time destroying things.
He shoots the thing and the money goes flying in the air. He goes, I made it rain.
Yeah, and like his like goons are trying to get him out, like, come on, we gotta go, and he's just like laughing and having fun with like
mixtape.
Yeah, I guess you a mixtape, but he is a like self-absorbed lunatic with this like amazing weapon as far as anyone else that he meets is gonna have.
Yes,
until he meets the Black Panther.
Well, I mean, he's a street villain.
General street crime. Like, this would be bad for Daredevil to deal with.
Yes.
Like, a guy that knows how to deal with this. He has, like, if you went into, like, he had military training and like, is a legitimate fighter, and then he's given this weapon or steals this weapon of, for the Claw. Yeah. He's going to be a problem if you're Daredevil or the Punisher or a street level hero.
Yeah.
He's going to be a problem. For the Panther, he's not gonna. I mean, you see Panther get him, and like, not good. And I love that scene too, where they stop T'Challa because they're like, the world is watching, and you see all these people with the phone, and that is exactly where the world is right now. To see this, all these people are gonna be recording this, and he is known obviously from Civil War by the general populace that there's this hero running around in this suit. Like, you can't kill him in front of everybody.
Yes, which is great. And again, a further story. Ryan Coogler, the writer and director of the movie, did an unbelievable job with all of that, which is really cool because how well this movie was made. He is now in charge of writing and directing the sequel. And so there's a lot of times we have that problem in the MCU or in movies in general. A movie kicks ass and that person gets such good credit for it. So Ryan Coogler gets amazing credit for it. And then they go on to do another project with someone else and they don't have time to do the sequel. And not only, so some of these things like MCU has been able to do that with James Gunn saying, okay, you get Guardians 1, you get Guardians 2, and we'll wait a little while to do Guardians 3 so you can do a couple other projects in between. We could fire you and then rehire you and then make Guardians 3. Whereas like Coogler, same thing, but he was able to do the ability of 12 movies later, 12 movies later to actually do another Black Panther movie. I mean, obviously you give this guy the keys of the truck because he made up $1.4 billion for you.
God,
so
yeah.
There's no way this movie doesn't make over $1 billion. New one.
I would be interested to know if he himself is a Black Panther fan, because
I would assume.
I have read I've read a fair amount of Black Panther, and this follows very well in a lot of different Black Panther books.
Yeah.
There's the scenes of of the, I don't know if you want to call it the afterlife or, the ancestral plane sort of, that looks like the comics. Like it was so well done. The purple sky is beautiful. It looks great. It works. The Panthers in the tree and then forming into, the previous Black Panthers down the line, and going to them for advice and for things is like right from the book series. And I love that, because the Black Panther is also the keeper of the dead, the protector of the dead. Like he's guarding that ancestral sort of plane that they go on. And it's another role of the Panther's job.
Well, yeah. If he's a big fan or not, I think he's a smart movie filmmaker because of the fact that he probably read as much of the source material
as he could. Yeah, if he wasn't a fan, he at least did his due diligence of reading.
I don't want to get race involved in here, but I would assume that because there's such finite few number of superheroes that growing up that were African American, that an African American would be a big fan of the very few African American superheroes, and Black Panther is one of them. I would think that I would assume that that's a book that if he was into comic books, he would have read or been a fan of. So I would, like I said, I've tried to look up on just Wikipedia if there's anything on there. There really wasn't. But I did stumble upon that. He's an executive producer on the Ironheart TV show. I did not realize.
Oh,
that,
cool.
Which makes sense in a sense, because as we get in a second over to the sequel to this movie, is that she's in that movie as well. So, but I would assume he was. And again, if it's not, I mean, the reason why Loki was played the way Loki was played is because Tom Hiddleston just read everything. Yeah, there was possible he could get out there.
I love the scenes of I've seen photos of Doctor Strange.
Yes,
Cumberbatch buying stacks of Doctor Strange comics and trades, like in comic stores. Like in some of them, he was in costume.
Yeah,
I love it.
I hit my head last night. Oh my God, Doctor Strange is here buying comic books on the Doctor Strange.
Wait. Talk about your like all-time great things if you own a comic shop. Like, all right, so Charles Soule's come visit us. If like Chris Hemsworth walks the door, dresses Thor, buys Thor comic books, like Ryan Reynolds comes up with a stack of Deadpool books. Like,
yes.
You're like, that's when you made that level, like that tier. Like, all right, well, it can't get much better than this ever again. Like,
oh, I just saw my notes. The one thing, M'Baku was awesome too.
Yes, yeah, all of the every single side character was fantastic,
worth it. Yes, and I obviously big Walking Dead fan. We got Michonne in there as well.
Yeah, she was fantastic. And that was another great. They did a fantastic job of showing what the military is and how they are dedicated to the throne and everything. Their duties come before anything else, which I think you're going to see some of their stories in Wakanda Forever coming up. It looked like I'd read a little bit about, but she was fantastic in it and was amazing about.
Yes.
Talk about your girl power, woman strength. Like, you do not mess with her. Like they said, she was like, I believe the Panther said that she was the greatest warrior they had, coming from a guy that is in a Panther suit and like borderline invincible on like, if probably one of the last MCU people you want to mess with.
Exactly. And he's also one of the wealthiest. So he's got his
he has everything.
Actually, they say he is the wealthiest. They actually think that, according to like articles online, he's the wealthiest superhero of all time too, because of vibranium. Because of his stocks of vibranium.
Yeah, the stocks of vibranium. Like anytime you need to make some money, you go chisel a little bit of vibranium off.
Yeah,
and you could.
Him, Iron Man, and Bruce Wayne are the ones that are are the wealthiest of the superheroes that are out there and stuff like that. But not only did they take a African American and make him an outstandingly strong superhero character in a movie that in a world of very few of these characters,
the world that needs that.
And then you add in, not only did you do that, you did strong, independent female characters that were African American as well, which was amazing. And it wasn't white versus black, which I liked. There's a big thing about me is it was Killmonger versus his own people, and that was really cool on that. And so M'Baku was great too. M'Baku had some funny aspects of him too, like when they're hugging and they're getting ready to leave his little like office space that he has there, and he's like, "Are you done?
Right?
Are you done?"
I love when they start grunting. When Ross starts speaking, and then he's like, "I will feed you to my children," and like the terror and the look in his face, and then he starts laughing. He's like, "I'm kidding, we're vegetarians." Speaking of, which that is a really big vegetarian, by the way. Like, that dude is huge.
The grunting, that mask he has when he comes and does when he challenges T'Challa,
the gorilla mask,
that mask, and then you have the Killmonger one too, and then obviously the robes and things you see, the dress they have. It did win multiple costume awards in the for the movie, so the costume design was up there.
It should, I mean the Panther's costume is fantastic. Killmonger's costume is awesome.
The Panther's costume is badass because let's be honest, back when the Panther got introduced in the Marvel comic books, it was just a black suit with some tiny little ears on top of it.
Black suit and it
was basically still spandex.
Yeah, still cool. I feel like even the original.
Oh, absolutely. But this was like
the original Kirby artwork. In fact, I have Black Panther #1 in store right now. Jack Kirby, Black Panther #1, and even like it was such a simple look, but the Black Panther like was awesome right off the get go.
Yes. It was. But I was just saying, like, they were able to take that simplistic, awesome outfit and make it into something even more badass and more modern in the MCU,
the technology added into the suit.
It looks fierce. It looks royal.
It kind of goes to the Batman where originally he's wearing a suit and just is like, damn, this dude is tough, to okay, now he's got the battle armor.
However, full face mask.
Yes.
Batman, you just shoot him in the mouth, he's dead.
He's dead. He's done.
We should do that episode sometime.
That was the Surrey made fun of that, of like, your design where they're shooting at me. I have to put my helmet on.
Yeah, I mentioned that to
so then they get the like technology of it just absorbs outward.
Like, because I've always said it's like Superman can't fight crime until he goes into a phone booth.
Phone booth
don't exist anymore,
right?
And changes into a suit. That's the funny thing about superheroes. I would love to do an episode sometime of just how we would be able to easily kill superheroes if you just thought about it. Like if you shot Batman in the face.
Batman's the easiest, I think, by far.
But
he's also one of the few that is completely human.
Yes.
Like he has no ability, power at all. Like T'Challa, I think T'Challa, I mean, you see him in the battle scenes when he has the power stripped away, is a formidable warrior and fighter right off the bat. Then you add in the powers that he gets from the heart-shaped herb and dear God, and then you put him in that suit, and
I've always thought the heart-shaped herb was a little bit of herb.
Very few people are going to stop him.
I thought heart-shaped herb was
right.
No.
No.
Paul, Wakanda Forever comes out. You could get those in California in the neighborhood they were at the beginning.
Yeah.
I do love that exchange at the end where she's like, when you said you were bringing me to California, I thought you meant Coachella or Disneyland.
Yeah, Disneyland. They're like standing in this like definitely like ghetto
where the kids want to like strip the spaceship for parts to sell on eBay.
Yeah, maybe we could sell this thing.
I would rather. You probably shouldn't do that.
No.
But November 11th, 2022 will be Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I think it's kind of a unique, cool name. I am a big fan, Paul, of name other than the sequel number 2. So like Black Panther 2, why can't we do that? I don't understand why all of them aren't like that. Like, why was Iron Man and then Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3? Why wasn't Iron Man something? Something. I think that
Iron Man War of the 10 Rings, Iron Man.
Yes.
Right.
I don't
Iron Man, who's a villain you're not gonna like.
Iron Man, Whip. But there was a series called Iron Man / Whiplash, wasn't there? So you could have just done that, call it Iron Man Whiplash. Like you could have done like the comic book, but I digress. Black Panther Wakanda Forever. according to Wikipedia, it's going to be 2 hours and 41 minutes. I read somewhere else it'll be closer to 3 hours. This is the longest solo film in MCU history.
I think for the amount of things it's gonna have to cover, it needs to be. Like, between the fact that we've lost Chadwick Boseman and we're gonna have to have someone else take on the Panther, and we have to find out how is he gone? How is T'Challa gone?
Is the first 20 minutes or so? I would assume the first 20 minutes is explaining his death and dealing with the repercussions of his death.
I think it has
and
to
like
be.
Kind of like what they did in Spider-Man, where they had like the homages to him and the remembrance of him and all that stuff. Like I feel like the first, so there's 20 minutes right now that you have to add into a movie that wasn't originally going to be part of the movie because he was still alive. Right. And so now you have to add that aspect of that. Then here's my question. Do we even get a Black Panther till the end of the movie?
I don't know. I wonder that too. I mean, this is not Black Panther, it's Wakanda Forever.
Yes.
And we're getting the introduction of the villain / potential hero later. I don't know what they're gonna do with Namor.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get all of that, and that's a whole new race of people in the MCU we haven't seen. So we have to explain them, because it's not just like Michael B. Jordan, here's a villain, and this is why he's the way he is. Michael B. Jordan he's a human, so the Killmonger character is just a human. We're not getting into a whole thing. We have to get into a whole new race of people and their ways and how they live and why they're doing what they're doing.
Which is not called Atlanteans, by the way, in the MCU. In the MCU, they're not called Atlanteans. They're called
read that somewhere.
Talokans. Talokans. I think that's mainly just because of confusion of other Atlanteans. Things. Like I think
Atlanteans have been used.
Well, I think Atlanteans, isn't that what isn't Atlanteans big in the Aquaman too?
That's Aquaman is Atlantean. Yeah, the city of Atlantis. I think that's why. And, and I mean, that's why. Essentially, I mean, that was one of those things. It's like having Thor, Hercules, these original things that were all free to use. So every comic book used the same.
And you can relate to them, you know them, you understand why they would do that, and so on. It makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I do understand that. But long movie. Ludwig Göransson returns the score of the movie like he did in the first movie, who also scored The Mandalorian. So if you like that kind of music, he did a great job. Of unbelievable composer on that. Actually, next week or later on this week, we have this comes out on Wednesday. Thursday, there's an article being posted on the website of the 10 most iconic theme songs from cinema. And,
very cool.
And I'll spoil it right now for you, Paul. 6 of the 10 belong to one person. John Williams. Does that surprise you at all?
Not even a little. Not even a little.
Okay. And then it's the final movie in Phase 4. So it's not the final project. It's supposedly the Marvel holiday special.
I hope we end Phase 4 with a high note, because I could not pick out anything from Phase 4 that I particularly...
Well, I think this movie is going to be the best movie in Phase 4. I do think that.
I think so. It's the one I'm most excited about, I think.
I mean, Namor being introduced Namor was one of the first Marvel superheroes.
The first Marvel character. It was him, the Invaders originally. Yep. So it was him, the Human Torch, which actually was an android originally. Mm-hmm. And Captain America was back in the 40s in that 40s. Era.
So this is 1939 he was introduced.
Yeah.
In Marvel Comics #1, October of 1939 by Bill Everett. And then, so that's like, you're talking years and years and years and years ago. I'm talking about many years ago, this character was introduced. And the relationship or the battles and the connection between Black Panther and Wakanda and Namor and Atlanteans go back centuries, like we talked about, years. And
in the comics, that is one of the biggest things. And I love in a comic series, Infinity, where they come together with all of their history and talk to each other about what's going on because of this worldwide thing that's happening. And how the two of them can they're the only two that seem like they could relate with it all, because they've been at war so long together, that they could at least understand each other, where they both were coming from versus where the rest of the heroes were coming from. Mm-hmm. They were the ones that were most likely going to get this resolved in that story arc. So you talk about two badass characters in the Submariner and the Black Panther. And I think it's going to be fantastic to finally get Namor on screen. Hopefully hopefully he comes out well. I don't know.
So here's the deal. There's two things on this. One is he is what's that 60 like 70 something years old of comic books, like right.
Yeah.
He's 73 years old comic book wise. He's obviously changed over the years, things like that. So I feel like he's old enough now that whatever they do, it's going to be the MCU version, but we know that it's we have to understand that nowadays that they don't just take from the comic books and put it in the
It's not going to be the original comics.
I hope they do it well. He is going to be a mutant. They did say that he is a mutant, which is the first in
mutant, which is sort of I don't.
Miss Marvel is technically a mutant in the MCU, but he is the first known as the movie is put on screen. You see him on screen. We know he's a mutant in the MCU. Like we find out at the end of Miss Marvel that she's a mutant, but like,
I wonder how that's gonna. How does that work as a mutant with an entire race of people that are all like him? Like I don't.
We'll see. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see. I don't love that, but some of that's probably me being a traditionalist too. I have a hard time. A lot of things. My wife and I will go to movies and stuff of MCU things, and she can love it, and I'll hate it because I'm like, that's not how it is, and I have a hard time.
Always the way it's been since any film adaptation of a book, of a play, of a short
doesn't matter what it is. You always have.
If
you have a pre-bias of it being a certain way, you always have a hard time letting that go.
And very rarely do you see the person who created the original product do the actual remake of it. Like when we see that, like we've seen our buddy over there, Todd McFarlane.
I was gonna say we saw Todd McFarlane Spawn.
But so that change is going to be there. The other new character, I mean, a lot of the original cast from this movie, obviously, sans Chadwick Boseman, who passed away, it returned to this movie too, including M'Baku and all those the strong female characters that were in the first movie. His mom is back in this too, but there's another new character that introduces in this movie that will get their own series, and that's Riri Williams, or Ironheart is the Dominique Thorne is playing her. She's actually in this as well, which is kind of cool. That's so. As we get into this end of this episode, and we're talking the preview now of the other movie. I have a theory that multiple people in this movie are going to be Black Panther for a little while. I have a feeling that like Dominique or Riri Williams might be Black Panther, and that's where she gets into this I want to be a superhero kind of thing. And
so then she creates a suit. As
we see or someone else like Suri. I'll put money on the fact that it's Suri.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I would say
she is.
We talked about this before.
Future of it in the comic book. Like, why would you go any other route?
Yes.
Who else
in the comic world? That's how it goes. She takes over the mantle of the Black Panther. So that would only make sense. I can't see. I know people wanted to see M'Baku as it. That doesn't know.
His mom
really work. Yeah,
I'd love to see his mom like wear it for take the herb and wear it for like 5 minutes.
Right.
And decide not to do it anymore and hand it over to her daughter.
I can't do
that. Would be hilarious.
It's a big, like, if you look at this, that is a big, it's a big responsibility. You are the leader and defender of this country. Even if at times where there's been like one person is the leader, the monarch of it, and T'Challa is just the Panther, you still have to make the decisions on, of taking a human life if you were in combat to defend Wakanda, or to defend another, if this is a worldly thing and you're partnering with other heroes, that is not an easy role to bring on.
No. So question for you, Paul. Quick question for you.
Okay.
T'Chaka, his dad, has 2 kids, right? T'Challa and Shuri.
Right.
T'Challa doesn't exist, never born. Shuri would have been Shuri would have been the Black Panther after he died in the first place, right?
Right. Or when he, and also if he like sort of retired from it, then she would have taken the mantle.
So why she has to die in this movie, in my opinion, to not become Black Panther?
Yeah.
I just don't see it.
It's the right progression of the way that we know it all works, right?
Or someone we have no idea who
steps up to challenge.
No one. Just literally no idea. It could be a nobody. The sad part is, Paul, is it's Black Panther. So if it wasn't Black Panther and he wasn't such a necessary character for this storyline and potentially the future of the MCU, we could have just let him go.
Right.
We could have just said Black Panther has passed away. It's done. We're moving on. But they had one movie basically of
Right.
him in a small parts in other movies and things that now we need to be able to continue the story on. We cannot
Yes.
do it.
Yes. And the story of the Black Panther always being there from Wakanda, you have to do something. Because I read a whole book where Shuri is training and challenged her brother for the suit in combat in the first place. And in that one she lost. She didn't get it. And she always had this bit of like bitterness about that. Like the Shuri we get in the MCU side is like this like comedy relief sometimes. She's a kid, and it's definitely not the one from the book that is like Shuri in the book is more brutal than T'Challa in a lot of scenarios.
Well, that's some people's argument.
T'Challa a lot of times like is trying to rein her in.
Yeah.
Because she's willing to go to war over things. And he's like, you can't do this. It's not right for our people.
Well, that's the thing. So her comedy relief in the MCU. That's why some people have a problem with that. But here's my thought is her brother just died. That's what I think too. It's going to change and develop that character. Yeah. And now she's a badass person. And Riri Williams is going to be best friends with her. All these different things. I'm excited for that because I do love the trailer to Black Panther where Riri Williams is banging out the heart thing, like throwback to 2008 when Iron Man was doing it in the
doing it. Yep.
That's such a great little callback on that. I do like the idea that we're getting Riri Williams with Tony Stark dead. So this is not this little simplest, like almost like a handoff thing. Like I all these things that like with Ironheart coming in and with potentially Shuri becoming Black Panther are things we've explored before in the comic books. This is not unusual territory.
No.
And Black Panther is one of those ones that has traditionally been handed down. So like the idea of them handling it down to someone else is not crazy. Someone else stepping into the Iron Man suit to me is a weird thing because he was Iron Man.
Tony Stark is Iron Man.
Whereas Black Panther is the pseudonym for whoever's wearing the suit at the time.
Right.
And that's T'Chaka at one point.
It's that
T'Challa.
role.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see, and it's fun because as we don't know. Going into this movie with Chadwick Boseman being alive, we would just know Chadwick Boseman is Black Panther. So it adds this whole other mysterious thing to the actual movie, which I'm excited for. That how they're going to use Riri Williams. We're probably going to get 30 seconds of Riri Williams, honestly. If anything is led to believe by any other preview ever, the fact that they show her in the trailer means that we're probably going to get 30 seconds of her actually in the movie. And I just hope it's a lot of Namor. Give us some introduction to him. And so on. The synopsis of the movie: the leaders of the kingdom of Wakanda fight to protect their nation from from invading forces. I like the word invading because it has the whole invaders thing in there. Invading forces in the wake of King T'Challa's death, a new threat emerges hidden in the underseas nation of Talokan. So that's that. Talk about the idea of having Namor and being the leader of the Talokan people. But yeah, I mean, I like it because it's also going to be a lot more. It's going to be grounded in the tribal aspect of the.
It's all taking place within Wakanda essentially. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see like what spawned this war. Why are they now coming in? I'm assuming there's going to be a background there somewhere of the story of Wakanda versus these people. And I'm sure centuries and centuries ago.
Are they going to use the sand there, Paul?
I would think so.
Oh my god!
I would think so.
Introduction with the whole thing about like you didn't know about it, like
about them like. Say they are originally trying to raise, to raise up. In the first place they tried to raise up to was Wakanda, and Wakanda put them back to the sea, and that started this whole thing. Which I think I actually read in one of the books was the background story of it was that they came up and the Wakandans killed their king or whatever at the time, so they always had this grudge against him. Like we'll get it back, but they just picked of all the places on Earth to come out and say, oh, we're going to take over this. They definitely chose the wrong spot going to Wakanda. Mm-hmm. So it always kept this long ongoing hatred. So it'll be interesting to see what this is. But obviously the T'Challa's death, that's the time to strike if you're going to try to attack Wakanda.
One of the cool things, Paul, about the next future movies that are coming out and stuff like that too, is like the next 4 movies or 5 movies, but I forget what it is all characters we've been established with or movies we've been established with, sequels or other things with them. So you have Black Panther, you have Ant-Man, you have Guardians of the Galaxy, you have Marvels. Like you have these movies that we're not introducing any solo movies that are new characters that you might not like or might not love. We were hoping that Thor would be that big kickoff part of this part, but obviously that didn't happen. But So quick question for you, Paul. This past weekend, a movie opened in the theaters called Black Adam, The Rock. This comes out in a couple weeks called Black Panther. Which one? Black Panther or Black Adam?
For me, all day Black Panther. And okay. I'm a big DC fan too. I'm not, but all day.
Here's the deal. Did you see the article?
I am almost done with DC properties of like giving my time to them. And I love DC.
Yeah. Did you see the article though? Or the thing out there or post or whatever it was? So it's obviously got like a 38 or 48% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
I think it was 48 on
it's
Rotten Tomatoes.
90% audience rating, which is the highest rated DC Marvel or DC product in a long time, if ever, by audience ratings. So this leads me to believe it's probably not a bad movie because critics are just so critically overwhelmingly picky about certain things. And here's the deal. The movie's not made for critics. The movie's made for you and I.
Yep.
We're critiquing things right now, but you and I as the comic book fans.
As fans. Right. We're not going into this with comparing this to every other movie produced, or does this stand up to some, drama right now? We're strictly comic book related. So I will, because my wife and I love going to the movies, I will likely go see Black Adam in theater too. Liz is already super excited to go see Wakanda Forever.
Yes, there you go.
We're planning on going to the theaters for that, as close to release as we can.
Yes. We talked about the idea that someone liking the source material. The Rock is a very, very big fan of Black Adam. He has been trying to make this movie for 15 years. It's awesome. Finally made. So congratulations to The Rock and making it and finally doing something you love. Well, not finally doing something you love.
Because we know he'll be listening to this podcast. We want to see.
It actually, I also believe it's his biggest opening weekend in his movie history, I believe, too, of him, over 140 something million or something.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I enjoy a bunch of his movies. For fun, like Jungle Cruise was fun. I saw Scorpion King way back in the day when it came out. But
he looks so different in that movie. Like every other movie since then, he looks like The Rock. In that movie, you're just like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, he's got the long ponytail and the whole thing going. And
he belongs in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, back in the day, when I was like, what was that? I must have been like a teenager or maybe 20 or so when that came out. I was like, I'm like badass. Like, yeah. The development now that I'm 40, I'm like,
Well, it's one of those things. You just go back and look at something. You're like, oh my God, this is so amazing when I was a kid. And you're like, oh my God, it's because it was the only thing I was watching, probably.
Right. Well, and I mean, it had Godsmack for soundtrack, so I was all in. Like, you look at all those, you grow.
I could see them remaking it. I could see them. I know they did the Mummy.
The entire Mummy, like,
forget the Tom Cruise one. Let's
cool.
start over again and do a good one.
It's a whole.
I like the original ones. I think they're great. I think they're great movies. I think they tried to reboot it with Tom Cruise and it was stupid. You don't need a Tom Cruise.
I don't know Tom Cruise personally, anyways. I don't personally.
Let him make his 17th Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah, go over there and do that. Leave me alone. Brendan Fraser, like, loved him in those movies. Like, he was phenomenal. Absolutely loved him. Like, I would say O'Connell there was like one of my favorite childhood super, like, sort of hero roles. Like, the guys who you're like, man, I'd like to be that guy. Like, he's walking around with his arm to the teeth and like he's never afraid of a fight. Like, I love that dude. But no, I'm super excited for Wakanda Forever. And as far as Black Adam goes, I've got to go see it.
Oh, they will see it. And that's the thing. It's and so, Paul, my plan is we're honestly on a hiatus, you and I, for the month of November and December, I think, on the podcast, because I have stacked with comic book creators. We've got, I think I mentioned this last time, but we've got next week is Stephen Graham Jones, who wrote Earth Divers. The week after that, it's Jonathan Hedrick to talk about Dream Master. Chrissy Williams and Lauren Knight the week after that to talk about Golden Rage. Matthew Klein and Morgan Bean to talk about the book Crashing. Then Andor is a review. We're reviewing Andor with Jabron from the Briar Patch. My wife and I are going to review the National Treasure movies. It's one of our favorite guilty pleasure movies, but the new series is coming out on Disney Plus. So
those are very fun. Very fun.
Jeremy Hahn from The Approach is coming on. Then Jabron and I are going to review the Star Wars Holiday Special. And then
I'm glad you left me out of that one.
It's basically like 3 or 4 weeks of Star Wars action there, because right after that is Kai Patterson at the end of the year is coming on to talk about his recut of the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show into a 2.5-hour movie, which is a fan movie made, which is pretty cool. And then you and I will talk comic books of the year. So between now and
Year
then, we
in
have to
review.
discuss year in review our comic books of the year. But I plan on, obviously, Black Panther comes out sometime between now and the end of the year, November 11th. We may do either a breaking news kind of thing. I plan on having you come back and let's review Black Panther Wakanda Forever so that you have both ends of it. Same thing. If you ever
Sounds
do a
good.
preview or review of a movie and then you preview the sequel, then you
Yeah.
can come back on and we can talk about it so that we can connect the two together. But until then, we got book club tomorrow night.
Book club. Galactic Book Club. We got to get like, I need more chairs and we need a bigger space in here because
I was thinking about tomorrow night.
this thing is taking off. Like the book
could we
club
just
is,
do it in
like,
the front room?
That's probably what we're gonna have to do.
I mean,
like
you're closed
doing it in the
anyway,
back room,
so
so that like the last book
Yeah.
club, we had people trying to roam in here.
we could put a
That's our
sign on the
book
door
club.
that just says closed for book club and you know
Right.
and stuff like that. Because I just think that you have more space in the front room to
Yeah,
circle
yeah, you
up
don't have
and-
all the shelves and stuff back here for the comics.
it's closer to the beer fridge.
True story.
But yeah, so we're reading that. We'll talk, and there'll be an article on the website about the long Halloween that we did for last book club. Next book club is I Hate Fairyland by our guy Scotty Young. So if you want to read
Which is
along with
funny
us, just let
it
me
seems
know.
like something is coming out
Right around the same
we're
time.
reading- Oh wait, I Hate Fairyland, the new comic series drops.
That's an FOC, isn't it?
I just did the FOC this morning. For that,
You got as many covers as you can of all the covers, right? I'm guessing.
I got along. They actually, I'm glad. So this is a good thing that I do these weekly because they dropped, I think, 3 more covers on that were not in the original FOC
Cool.
time. So there's 3 more in there that were all great. So I ordered some.
Are those
extras
like
in there.
$5.99 cover prices? Or are they $3.99, $4.99?
No, I didn't even look.
Probably $8.99.
There's some of them for the local comic shop day
Yeah.
ones where they're doing like foil variants and stuff. They're like $10 foil variants, and I'm like, good God, you're asking a lot for something that's like the exact same cover of a book.
Yeah, just foil
just,
variant. Yeah.
just came out. Like, come on, man. Come
But
on.
that's one of the few ones that I will probably pick up a bunch of them because you know me, I hate Fairyland. I like Scotty Young, so
Yes.
yay! But subscribe, follow Galactic Comics on Facebook, Instagram, out there. Visit galacticcomicsandcollectibles.com for more stuff.
Yep.
Eventually, will be added to that. If you
We
do
just
want to
threw
join our
up
book
mystery
club,
bags. Mystery
Oh, yeah.
bags of Marvel and DC grab bags are on there now. So we made up a bunch of those, and I'm pretty happy and excited with how they came out. I think they're a cool pickup for anybody that wants to try out some comics or are looking to add your collection.
does your
Ooh.
guy still want this or not? Or because I can bring it in tomorrow.
I assume so. Yeah.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
bring it in. This is also I can bring this up so you can have it on loan for your shop if you want. This is the Iron Man, and that's a little signature from George Perez there.
Look at that.
Iron Man 103.
That's pretty.
Almost dropped it.
Don't drop it.
I would bring in my first appearance of Captain Britain for you to loan, but CBCS still has it. So
Eventually.
yeah, eventually. So they added a section on the website so you can track the progress of it. And I went to track progress of it. It's still in the same spot that it was when I got there.
It just
It's
sits there, like-
processing.
So
It's just a new way of
that
looking
missing
at it.
that one missing package of USPS. It's in New Jersey, and you go back on and look like still shows in New
I've had-
Jersey. Like
2
hasn't moved.
packages sent by UPS. 2 straight packages that got damaged on the way. One of them I sent Ben Bishop.
Yep.
Beer and swag in a box. One of the beers opened up. They threw the whole thing away because it wasn't packaged correctly. So they were able to just throw it all away and I can't claim it.
Yep.
And then a buddy of mine, I sent them 2 of the Humane Orono Brewing Company pint glasses
Oh yeah.
to him in New Hampshire, Massachusetts. Broken. Both glasses
Oh.
were broken.
Oh, I was impressed. I had a customer here order pint glasses. And I ordered
Yeah.
from Diamond, and I'm like, oh god, like I can only imagine how this is gonna
How
go.
they're gonna
And they
come.
showed up, and I mean, these things were like bubble wrap beyond bubble wrap beyond bubble wrap in their own individual containers.
Mhm.
So those were like phenomenally packaged. I wish they
Mhm.
packaged their comics as well as they packaged their pint glasses. But
Oh,
the pint
hey,
glasses
hey,
made it.
they didn't package them together.
Yeah.
That's a bonus thing. They didn't put a
That's-
couple of pint glasses in a box with some comic books and say, "Have here you go."
Well, it was kind of funny because like if you order the action figures and stuff, they always come in their own
Yeah.
individual thing, and like those would survive like a nuclear fallout. Like they are wrapped in package, and you like get this huge box, and I'm like, what the hell is in this thing? And I keep sorting, and there's like one Funko Pop in the middle. I'm like, what? Why? Why is this big?
The
And
comic
meanwhile,
book
the
has a bent
comics are
corner,
like,
yeah.
yeah, they're just chucked in here. Like looks like they like frisbee them from across the room.
Well, technically, according to Diamond, isn't a pop vinyl a collectible and a comic
Is it
book not?
collectible and a comic is not collectible? Yeah, that's true.
Hmm,
True story. Hmm.
But we digress. We will complain for hours and hours and hours about the world of comic book retail and comic book collecting. But right now we have to get on with the rest of our lives.
Yes.
That was Black Panther, and then Black Panther Wakanda Forever comes out November 11th. Make sure you check that out. And I'm sure there'll be some sort of behind the scenes thing on Disney Plus that comes out after it's been released too. But yeah, let's see if we can get this thing. I mean, I do think it will open stronger than the first movie we did, which is pretty crazy because the first one did 200 million or right around 200 million. Yeah. And I do think that it could possibly hit 1.4, 1.5 billion at the end of this because you got people who want to go pay their respects to Chadwick Boseman in a sense, as well as this movie was really well received the first time. So I don't see why it wouldn't be received well the second time. So we'll see how that goes. But
because they all saw Thor: Love and Thunder.
And they wanted to redeem themselves. That's what they want.
Yeah, let's hope.
So it's interesting to see that there's now a couple of weeks away from each other. There'll be a DC property and a Marvel property in the theaters against each other at the same time, which would be pretty cool. But yeah, until next time, this is like we're Capes and Tights, man, right?
Capes and Tights.